Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Muslim Marriage Podcast, where we talk about healthy relationships from a Muslim lens. I'm Zahra Hassan,
And I'm AJ.
and we've been married for 3 years now. And let's get started.
Let's get started.
Did you forget the line, my dear?
I wanted to hear you say it for once.
Is that what we're going with?
Yeah.
Okay, you want me? I should start pulling my weight.
What?
Okay.
I would never say that.
You would-
I would never tell you to pull your weight. I would never tell you that I'm doing all the heavy lifting here. I would never tell you this. I can't believe you would think that lowly of me. I would never tell you to start pulling your weight.
You know what? I stand corrected. You're good? You're
Yeah.
good, my bro? Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, so this week's episode is entitled "My Wife Doesn't Appreciate Me." That was not our purpose. It should be said that he never knows what the title is going to be until I say it. Should we get started?
Let's get started.
Okay. I shouldn't laugh so much. This is actually a pretty serious question.
No, that was just weird.
So
Weird coincidence.
Was it though? Okay.
Oh my god.
So we're going to get right started with the question. This brother is asking. He says, I am male 34, who's married to my wife, who's 33 years old, for about 8 years now.
Mm-hmm.
We've known each other for about 15 years, at a point in my marriage where I don't feel valued, wanted, respected, or cared for, at least not at the level I feel I deserve.
Okay.
So just bear with me. This next part is going to be a little long. He says, I love my wife. She's a great person. She's fun to talk to, engaging, and an awesome mother. However, she's horrible at communicating, and I feel like after all these years, she still fails to understand me. What I mean is, she will say things that cut deep and hurt, then say, I didn't mean it like that, knowing that the words matter to me. I'm not an overly emotional person, but I say what I mean, and I expect the same back. So when she says things that are hurtful, it shocks me that she doesn't realize how it'll impact me after knowing me for 15 years. When she's mad at something, it's as if she gets blinded with rage and says whatever she wants. After a couple of years, I'm now guilty of reciprocating the same behavior, which makes me feel horrible. I realized this and I decided I needed to make changes, and I got a therapist, started doing sessions, which are going well for my own mental health. Alhamdulillah, I have better control now and I don't reciprocate. I asked her to retake the love language quiz and I sent her my results. I waited, then asked her a few days later. Then she said she saw it and mine and she didn't have time to do it. Fair enough. 5-minute job, but okay, sure. Then I asked her, okay, what do you think about my love language? To which she had no answer because she didn't even pay attention to the results I sent her. That hurt. I asked her to do couples therapy. She said no. I saw her phone open once in a chat with her best friend saying, he said, let's do therapy, like, no thanks, bro. I was shocked when I saw that. I'm a confident person, good looking, financially very secure, and religion conscious. I'm a good father. I spend probably half my time with my kids doing activities, dinner, bedtime, etc. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me lots, and through that, I've given my wife whatever she wanted to the best of my abilities. So I question. She says I have no faults, but yet there's no effort to understand me or communicate with me. No respect when she's angry. I don't get why she's so short-fused with me all the time. I did not deserve these things, and am I tripping, or is she just being ungrateful? Do I continue to try or just pull a scare tactic and say I'm getting a second wife? Obviously, she would lose it, and then I probably wouldn't see my kids again. But what do? Do I cheat? Have the same conversations over and over again? But that will all result in the same thing. To top it off, she's always scared I'll cheat on her or will get another wife because she says I'm what other girls would want in a man. Yet there's no effort to stop any of that from happening. I'm confused. What are your thoughts?
At one point, did he say, should I cheat?
Yeah. Because part of the issue here is also there is no intimacy.
Yeah, but why is he considering cheating?
Well, we're not in his shoes.
Sure, but why is he considering? He's like, okay, okay, whatever. Yeah, it seemed like he was on Reddit and he's just asking people like, should I cheat? That threw me off for a bit. To begin, first and foremost, he was apparently doing pretty well in not engaging in the behavior until a couple of years down the line, where he started to engage and reciprocate.
Yeah.
Her saying what she speaks. There was 2 sentences back to back that confused me a little.
Okay.
He said, "I'm a guy that says what I'm thinking."
Yeah.
And I wish she would do the same.
Yeah.
But then next he says, sometimes the things that she says hurts me.
Yeah.
And I don't think she recognizes that.
Well, yeah.
But she's saying what she's thinking.
Yeah, but I think there's an understood caveat there.
I think the problem is that she takes it back. She says, "Oh, I didn't mean it like that."
Yeah.
Right? So he might be thinking that she's saying it to hurt him, realizes what she said, and then says, "I didn't mean it like that."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
I think it's important that every single story has 2 sides.
Yeah.
Right? So we're going 100% from his side, and that's fine. He's provided a lot of context. So what I'm understanding is that this brother is very hurt. And step 1 of coaching is that when somebody is coming and asking a question in general, right? Because we take the same approach in answering any questions, whether they come to us directly or not, is that we don't judge the individual.
Yeah.
So when he says considering cheating, he gave some context that he's worried about losing his children, right? In the event of divorce or separation or things like that.
He said,
if he were married to a second wife.
If I scare tactic her, and say I'm getting a second wife, she might want to divorce me.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Number 1, you never threaten to get a second wife.
Yeah.
Unless you mean it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you don't threaten, right?
Yeah.
You just inform. You say, "Hey, I'm going to be getting a second wife. If you're okay with this, then wonderful. If you're not, it's going to be tough." Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if he threatens to get a second wife and then takes it back after, to her, it's real.
Yeah.
To her, she legitimately would think he legitimately wants a second wife.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So then the entire dynamic of the relationship would change.
He would
from that point forward. It would be irreparable change.
There would be more lost than gained.
It would be as if he already has a second wife now.
That's why I usually advise against, he calls it stare tactics, right? Yeah. But just threatening something with the intention of trying to change behavior is usually not advised.
Yeah.
So let's review a little bit before we move on to what he should do. So in this case, if we pay attention to what he's considering doing, which is cheating or asking for a second wife, I think this brother's issue is with regards to intimacy.
Yeah.
Definitely everything else he mentioned is also an issue, right? Overall, it looks like there isn't much appreciation for his efforts. He's adding in a lot of effort. However, he is having some difficulty with hearing that appreciation or feeling the appreciation or feeling the respect.
Yeah.
Right. I think respect is a better word than appreciation here, actually.
I think it would be respect. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's his issue, and what that is leading into is now an issue with intimacy between him and his wife. And many times when couples come to see me, and I see that their issues are centered around primarily one issue or two issues, and I can see that from their language, I'll ask them the question: if this one issue was solved in your marriage, what would happen if it was solved today? What would happen in your marriage tomorrow?
Yeah.
How would you feel? Would you feel a lot more connected? Would you feel like a lot of the stress is removed? I think that this brother might say yes. I think if intimacy was solved tomorrow somehow, and that one area in their life and their marriage was somehow rectified into a way that they're both happy, I think that it would lead to...
You would clarify that this is emotional intimacy, right?
No, I think he specified physical intimacy. There's sections in here that I didn't read.
That's the thing. I think I think decline in physical intimacy is not the cause. I think it's always a symptom.
Yes, but his solutions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're listening as coaches, we're not only listening to the words that tend to come up in the person's diagnosis or assessment of their issues, we also are paying attention to their proposed solutions, because the solutions will tell you what is the direction that he think would fix the underlying issue. So if the brother had said, I'm thinking of threatening divorce, that would be different. Or I'm thinking of threatening separation, that would be different. But he's saying, I'm thinking of threatening bringing on a second wife.
Yeah, I thought that was emotional as well, though, to be honest. I didn't think that was intimacy-wise.
The two of them go together. Usually when there's an issue with one area, there will be an issue with the other area.
Yeah.
And
like for me, sorry to cut you off, like the husband, I think he mentioned intimacy, but I don't think it was, I think the majority of it was she's distant. Right?
Yeah.
And I think him mentioning the second wife is to have her pay more attention to him.
Of course. Like it should be said that there is a section here that I didn't read. Simply because of this is a public platform, and the brother goes into a few lines of a little bit detail, like
okay, so
clinical
you have context
detail
that I don't have.
Yes, exactly. But even if that context didn't exist, even if it didn't exist, just by simply the solutions that he gave to rectify would tell me about what he thinks is the underlying problem.
Did say, should I cheat?
Should I cheat? Yeah.
Usually only physical intimacy.
Yes, but again, it's important to understand that the way that, because he tried to address the issue through emotional intimacy, by the vehicle of love languages.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, his wife, in this case, based on what the brother said, his wife didn't really pay attention to that, which feeds more into feeling unseen, not prioritized, overall not respected.
Yeah.
That, my husband sent this to me. This is something that he wants me to read. I respect him. Let me see what it is that he said, because this is important to him.
The guy himself could be misdiagnosing. Maybe he thinks that it's a lack of intimacy, but it might just be emotional.
I'm telling you, the two go together. They go hand in hand. But the way
Which
that
is quite ironic.
Okay, they're holding hands.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because usually holding hands is intimate.
It is, absolutely. But what I mean by that is that one will be overemphasized in a person's mind than the other, where the truth of the matter is that both are missing. Yeah. So I have seen couples where, for instance, one spouse, the spouse who's coming to see me, has an issue with physical intimacy, but when I ask them about pointers with regards to emotional intimacy, sometimes they'll say that's fine, right? And they'll give me all kinds of examples of how that's the same, that hasn't changed. It's wonderful. They feel connected to their spouse, except in this one aspect. That happens from time to time, right? Sometimes there can be a medical issue underlying. Usually we recommend that people go see their doctor and make sure that things are okay medically, but that does happen. Other time, what's actually more common is a situation like this, where when I ask about what's going on with regards to the emotional health or the health of your emotional connection with your spouse, they'll tell me, yeah, that's been a really big problem too. We used to do this, we don't do this anymore. So for instance, if their love language is quality time, they'll say, she used to make time for me to do this and this and this. That doesn't happen anymore. Or if it's words of affirmation, she'll say, he used to tell me he loves me. He used to tell me I'm beautiful. He doesn't say any of those things anymore unprompted. So they will more often talk about there being an issue of with regards to emotional intimacy as well. And just like we see here in this case, because he's trying to fix the issue of emotional intimacy that he perceives. Like, he didn't say directly that it's an issue, but he tried to fix it by talking about love languages and that wasn't addressed.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. Usually, so now if we go into the realm of advice,
Yeah.
of what,
Well, first of all, number one, don't cheat.
Yeah, that's true.
Never cheat.
Let's not do sin. Let's not commit sins if you can.
Like earlier on, he said that he's religious, so he should already know.
Yeah.
That cheating is one of the biggest sins.
Well,
in Islam.
We should, if I could interrupt you, we should give him some grace because it's been years. So he's been married 8 years.
Sure.
So when you, like, alhamdulillah, we're not in his position. Like when somebody's in that position for a prolonged period of time, it can start to have an effect that they're not thinking as they normally would. And that's usually, this is when people talk about the shaitan and waswasa. We have that context in our religion. But in general, when people are going through an emotionally distressful time, emotional distress for a prolonged period of time, it can affect the way that you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the punishment would still be the same.
Yes,
right?
that's
so
true.
You got to be careful of that. Like, you shouldn't cheat. And let's say that I'm annoyed by someone for like 8 years, and to the point where like I'm feeling the same type of way as that guy in the example. It wouldn't give me the ability to delete someone's existence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
in the same vein, just because he's been dealing with it for 8 years, he still shouldn't be thinking about cheating. If you're going to think about cheating, then you should think about divorce first.
Yes.
Because if someone cheats,
Yeah.
even if they get away with it in this world, they're not going to get away with it in the day of judgment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you haven't paid, like if you do cheat,
Yeah.
and you haven't paid for that sin on earth, it's gonna be awful for you on Judgment Day.
SubhanAllah.
Right? Because we only have a certain limited number of good deeds that we have, and cheating on someone is such a huge sin.
Yeah.
It's gonna tip the balance, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't even think about it.
No, I agree, especially with the reason that he gives for not considering. It's implied because he only gave the example of finding a second wife. Yeah, that he doesn't want to lose his children.
He's going to lose his children even worse if he gets caught cheating.
Exactly.
Even worse.
Yeah, it's something that is going to be more at risk. So I understand that the brother is very frustrated, and that it's not because the underlying issue here, I think the lack of physical intimacy and emotional intimacy are symptoms.
Yeah.
They're symptoms. I would need a lot more information, and because there's two sides to every story, I would want to speak to the wife as well. Yeah. But the underlying issue here is lack of respect.
Yeah, I would say so as well.
Yeah.
Because she is, from time to time, giving him sweet words of affirmation.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Like she told him, the other woman would love you.
Oh, yeah.
Like other ladies, you're the exact type of person that other woman would go for.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But then I think she got too comfortable around him.
Yeah.
I think she now that she has children with him.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, he's locked in.
Yeah.
He's not going anywhere. I don't have to try.
Yeah, that could definitely be. That's something we see a lot in a lot of marriages, right? That somebody starts to take their spouse for granted.
Yeah.
But when they do that, it goes into the issue of appreciation. Here, I think it's more severe, where you have an actual lack of respect, right? Again, I'm just going based on what I read. It could be 100% wrong. But so far, it looks like there's an actual lack of respect. And it shows how important it is to continue to respect your spouse and show your spouse that you respect them, because it can take such a huge toll. Like, he's really struggling. Like, he went and he saw a counselor. He's trying. If he's to the point where he's now on a public platform and asking for help, he's really trying. And it's when you're doing all those things, it's because you're coming up on on having to make some pretty big decisions, right?
Yeah.
So that's the effect that it can have on your marriage. That's the effect it can have on your spouse's mental health. That even if things aren't going well, maintain respect. It's possible. It's possible to, like, if you're at a point where you've decided and made a decision that I'm going to divorce my spouse for one reason or another, and only you know, and only you can give that validity. So if you believe that's valid, like I'm saying this as someone who's previously divorced. If you believe that there's no rectifying this and that you need to walk away, that's perfectly fine. But that doesn't mean that respect leaves the chat, right? So it's important to maintain, especially when you have children with this person, especially when you have children with them. But even if you don't, this is a Muslim marriage podcast. So even if you don't, this is a brother or sister in Islam. They belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't belong to us. And they are respected. Our default is that we respect people.
Yeah, don't text your friends about your husband or your wife.
Yeah, that was
You're the gatekeeper to their honor.
It's another symptom that respect has left the chat. Right?
It's because when they're growing up, they'll see it on TV that the men and the women are just openly talking about each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
For the men, for example, they might think more physical, like, oh, how is she, right?
Yeah.
Or for the woman, it's like more emotional.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I can't believe he did this or this or this.
Yeah.
Oh, man, you know?
Yeah.
But you just don't talk about your husband or your wife to your friends or to your family or to anyone, right? Because they are now a representative for you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You are now their ambassador. And it's your job to make them look as good as possible.
Yeah, and in general, it's out of wisdom, right? It's a wise thing to do.
Yeah.
Because many times, like, and I've seen both men and women do this, when things are difficult, they go to family members. When I'm saying that, like, they go regularly to family members, I'm not talking about when they have exhausted all other avenues and they're now looking for support to try to save the marriage. That's a different situation because we're told to go to family members to help you fix it.
Last line of defense.
Yeah. But I'm saying that in between, like every other Tuesday or Thursday, they'll go to family members or they go to friends and they'll talk about what's going on in their marriage. Both the positive and especially the negative. And the reason why that's an issue and it's not wise is because say things work out between you and your spouse, right? Or when you want your spouse to get along with this family and this family or friend, they can't because you've already created this negative picture of them in their mind.
Yeah. So
it will be you'll create friction between two people that wouldn't have had friction otherwise, right?
Exactly.
So it's just not a wise thing to do. But again, in this case, it's just a further evidence for this brother that respect is really an issue. So what my advice to him would simply be this: I wouldn't. The issue here is lack of communication. The two of them need to have a sit down and have a conversation where he does his utmost to be understood, and sees whether or not her having the right information will make a difference.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't make a difference, then he needs to start to grapple with the fact that this is somebody who might not really care about his well-being, right? Or really care about or really prioritize him in the ways that she needs to. And if that's the case, then he should say, in order for me to, I don't ever want to tell somebody I never tell any person to separate from their spouse. I don't want that on me on Yom al-Qiyamah. But this would be the point where he could tell her and put down a boundary and say, I'm going to need for us to go to counseling before we can continue in this, or this.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to need for us to go to counseling before something X happens.
X, Y, or Z.
Yeah. And that's for him to decide what that is with respect to their life. Right. but there needs to be, this is an issue that can be rectified with the right boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And I suspect that if that boundary is put into place, it will work in his favor, because first of all, it will automatically help her respect him a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the nature of the human being. The people we have a hard time respecting are the ones who don't have boundaries.
Yeah.
And the people who have boundaries are the ones that we respect more. That's
Mm-hmm.
just how that works.
Yeah.
So whenever there is an issue of respect in the marriage, it's usually an issue of boundary setting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's time for my diagnosis. Welcome to AJ's Diagnostic Corner.
Okay.
First and foremost, I already know what he did wrong.
What did he do wrong?
They've been married for 15 years so far,
8.
right?
8.
Oh, that's even better.
Even better.
They've been married for 8 years so far.
Mm-hmm.
Not once, and never week 1
Mm-hmm.
did he hotbox her under the covers.
All right. And you.
Let me just remind y'all
Okay.
that once y'all get married, you need to hotbox her under the covers.
Uh-huh.
It not only gets rid of the awkwardness, but also gives you something to call back upon, right?
Set the tone.
Now, because he didn't hotbox her under the covers, right? He has to threaten her with a second wife. Like, hello? No, just say, hey, remember week 1 when I hotboxed you under the covers?
Yeah.
You want to try that again?
Okay. Okay. Like I said, set the tone early.
Set the tone.
Yeah. But set the toot. Okay.
And if that doesn't work, just have more children.
Okay, why? Why would that? You're saying that because that's a terrible idea? I agree, that's a terrible idea. If your situation is not stable, the answer is almost never have more children. Though
Children will not fix whatever issues you're having.
Yeah.
But
Alhamdulillah, I think he understands that, and she understands. I've seen that.
The children will come. The children will come. Regardless of your plans, the children will come. But you don't want to aim for children to fix whatever issues you're having.
Yeah, I agree. So
unless you have an even number of children, you should get an odd number. You should get an even number of children.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of an odd number.
Equal teams?
Yeah.
I get it. So that would be the advice for this brother. He would need some help with boundary setting. And one of those boundaries should be that they need to see a marriage therapist. They need to see a marriage counselor. Preferably one, if it looks like they're both Muslim, preferably one who has a Muslim background to understand the context.
Yes, they also need to see reason.
Yes, absolutely. And that would be his next steps forward. And like you said, cheating is never the answer.
Yeah.
It's never, regardless of how difficult the situation we're in, the punishment is going to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not worth it.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. And just empty threats in a marriage we should actually say this. Boundaries, setting a boundary is different from threatening.
Yeah.
Because a boundary is something that is well thought through on your own, and is going to have consequences that are just known, that are going to be followed through upon.
Yeah.
Whereas threats are usually said in the heat of the moment and have no consequences. So all they'll serve to do is damage the trust between you.
Mm-hmm.
So just make it a rule in your marriage to never threaten and say the D word.
Yeah.
And I think we know what that is. Never threaten your partner.
Yeah.
Never threaten your partner in any way, shape, or form. It will always only damage, and it will never benefit.
Mm-hmm.
It will never benefit your marriage.
Yes.
Set boundaries instead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, just to elaborate.
Okay.
Never say divorce.
Yes.
Rather demarcate.
Demarcate. Oh, I like
Set
that.
Set boundaries.
I really like that. Never say divorce, rather demarcate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Is that trademarked?
Thank you for joining AJ's Diagnostic Corner.
I like this corner. But that would be the next steps for this brother or anyone who's in a similar situation. Inshallah, hopefully that was helpful. for anyone who is going through that or something similar to that. I think we will do an episode on setting boundaries and how to set boundaries in the future, inshallah. I think that's important. Yeah.
Yes.
But for now, if you have listened with us thus far, Jazakallah khair, we really appreciate you choosing to spend your time with us. It means a lot.
Before we go too far, though.
Oh, okay.
If we are going to do an episode about setting boundaries,
yes,
I just want you to know I'll only do that episode if I get a milkshake.
Is that a boundary?
You can call it what you will. I just want my milkshake.
And if you don't get if I don't get the milkshake, you just won't do the episode?
No. You can get me milk and then I'll find shake somewhere else.
Okay. But I like that. That was a good boundary setting because the consequence was right there in the sentence, which is a good preview to that episode, inshallah. Okay. All right, milkshake it is.
Mm-hmm.
So again, if you've made it this far, Jazakallah khair, we really appreciate your time. If you are a young woman and you're having difficulty finding a spouse through the dating apps because they are what they are, then I have created a free webinar for you that will be free until the end of this month, until the end of February 2025. There is a link in the About section of this YouTube channel if you're listening on YouTube, or in the description if you're listening on any other podcast platform. And otherwise, if you have found any of what we said useful and you think it would be useful for other people, we ask that you inshallah subscribe to our channel if you're on YouTube. That would really help us to be more seen and to help us take for the message to reach more people, inshallah. And we would really like to know what you think. What would you advise this brother? What do you think are his next steps? What should he do? And is there a difference between threatening and saying that, or boundary setting? What is your experience? That should be everything. Jazakallah khair. We wish you a wonderful week, and assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.